Welcome back to the channel. Today we are diving deeper into Ari Emanuel. Now, this is an extension of the deep dive series we've done because since the deep dive series and his role within it, there has been more developments. Now, welcome to the channel. My name is Ashley Brianna Eve. Here we talk about pop culture, power, and media manipulation. And today is a little bit of everything when we talk about Ari Emanuel, Blake Lively, Ryan Reynolds, and the ride or die team that they are. Now, I want to dive into a couple pieces with you today. I want to dive into number one, the Freakonomics episode that never happened, where they claim they lost all of the audio. So if you remember, Ari Emanuel had come out and there were headlines out everywhere that he is Blake and Ryan's ride or die, that he had fired Baloney who was that again? Oh yeah, Beldoni. I fired him. I got rid of him because I'm the ride or die for Ryan and Blake. And obviously those headlines and the public backlash freaked out Ari Emanuel a little bit because wouldn't you know it, all of a sudden that podcast episode wasn't recorded and doesn't exist. Very interesting, right? Now, this is another example. I spoke about SEO manipulation, which is search engine optimization manipulation that Blake Lively's PR team used yesterday, which is also a tactic many companies use. I'm just bringing to light the manipulation that happens. But today we're looking at what likely is someone that was paid off to make something go away. But we know that in today's day and age, nothing really actually disappears. We are in a day and age where maybe potentially someone in the audience was recording. And it almost sounds like that, whether it was a clip from the original audio and it just was bad audio, or someone in the audience had recorded it. But someone has a clip that backs up those original claims that Ari Emanuel had said that he is their ride or die. And we're going to play that. Another thing we're going to play is I found an interview with Ari Emanuel on the same podcast from 2013. There are a couple clips I find really interesting that don't add any context necessarily to the specific legal battle with Ryan, Blake, and Justin Beldoni. It doesn't from that perspective. And yet it's just very interesting. It talks about some of his business practices. And what I find is it really lends to what I've said before. Ari Emanuel's values and voice are for sale. They're for sale because he is going to support something that supports his bank account. And so we're going to play a few clips from there as well. So let's dive in. Let's actually start with the Freakonomics episode claiming that this audio had just disappeared. All right, let's do it, guys. Let's see what he has to say in regards to this episode.
And that's when our excellent editor, Ellen Frankman, comes up to me with a look on her face that I couldn't quite figure out. In retrospect, she looked really ill. She was shaky. Her face was pale. So I asked her, what's wrong? And she tells me that in addition to the audio failures we had earlier, there was another even bigger failure. The show had not been recorded.
Now I'm going to pause there because I don't want to get copyright struck. God only knows with Ari Emanuel what's going to happen with bringing all these pieces to the forefront. Well, although my other episodes have not yet. All right, so what he's talking about up until this point in the show that never happened episode is essentially that they were hitting all these audio issues. But, Ari Emanuel was like, let's just do it anyway. So apparently they did. So the reason why I think that's significant is he has to explain how that quote came out, right? Because if they just say, well, the audio, it never worked, so we never recorded the episode, well, then how do you explain those quotes? So the story they essentially came up with was, okay, well, yes, we were having these audio issues. We weren't going to actually record, but Ari Emanuel wanted to. So we went out, we record, but when there's bigger issues and it wasn't actually recorded. So that's essentially what he had said up to this point.
She says, and I didn't understand. I asked her to repeat herself. She said, they didn't record the show. And I still didn't quite understand. I mean, I've been recording stuff for many years now. I was a musician and I used to work in all kinds of studios. I was a reporter and used to record all kinds of interviews. I've been doing this show now for...
I almost wonder if that piece of it is like wink, wink to the audience. I mean, I've done this before. This doesn't just happen. I feel, and this is just speculation, but as he said, these things don't just happen. So who was paid off?
15 years, we've recorded thousands of studio and live interviews, many other things. And not once have the people responsible for recording just failed to record it. But tonight, that's apparently what happened. I am pretty sure we did do a live show with Ari Emanuel and RJ Cutler and Luis Guerra's band and Christina from the audience, but there's no recording of it, so I'm not really sure. The next...
All right, so no recording apparently. They knew they were having audio issues. He says, I'm pretty sure, because here's the thing, and I feel as though he's also covering his own butt here because the potentiality that something leaks. I don't know, maybe they even leaked the audio, who knows? But it's also covering his butt because if he comes out and he says, no, we were having audio issues and so we never did it. Well, one, where did that quote come from? And two, if it does ever leak, how do you explain that? So that was the show that never happened on Freakonomics, talking about, oh, yes, we recorded it. I think we did, but it just never actually recorded. And it just sounds like such an Ari Emanuel. If you watched my deep dive series on him, which started out as the Blake Lively, Ryan Reynolds Trojan Horse playbook on how they take over movies. And the more I dug, the more it got into just the cesspool of all of this, the Ari Emanuel of it all. And so I talk about this as well. Ryan does this as well, right? Green Lantern, I talk about that, where nothing of course was his fault. It was everyone else's fault. And so it's not Ari's fault. It's not their fault. It's the recording people's fault. Why didn't they record? All right, let's now go into the leaked audio. All right, for the leaked audio, we need to go over to X, and we're going over to Colonel Kurtz's page. Wonderful person. I've been following her for a really long time, and she says, things that often aren't popular. And I respect someone so much who is willing to go against the narrative. And she also has a YouTube channel. On X, she says, leaked audio, just the audio of Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds' agent. So this is Ari Emanuel admitting to firing Justin Baldoni to ride or die with team Lively and Reynolds. Whew. And she says, thanks again to Citizen Journalist 24, C Journalist 24 on X for finding the journalist who leaked this to us. Interesting. All right, let's dive in, guys. Let me just rewind it back to the start.
I wonder if you could tell us about a little bit of a mess that I gather you've been involved in.
Oh, yeah. I know where you're going with this one.
Do you have notes on it?
Oh, yeah. Those are the two things I said to myself, this could come up.
Okay,
And it's a mess.
so I have to admit, I don't keep up that much on Hollywood. But even I caught wind of the Blake Lively, Ryan Reynolds. Let the record show for those listening at home, Ari just slit his throat.
I mean, it's a fucked up, bad situation that Baldoni, whatever his name is doing. And it's part of it.
All right, so there you have it. It does sound like someone has like a recording device in a purse or something, eh? Like that's not me moving around. That's the audio. It's very muffled. And that's where he says, I don't know, it's an effed up situation with that Baldoni guy. And he also says he was expecting to be asked about it.
Now, he was your client too, until recently.
Until I fired him.
Right.
Just
Give a little bit of the backstory.
It's not really fair. I've known Ryan and Blake for over a decade. They're really incredible people.
All right, so I want to say this as well. One, Ryan and Blake being incredible people, you don't hear that often. And I know there's a lot of controversy around stars that have spoken up and alluded to Ryan being the problem on set. A lot of people are saying, that person seems to be nice to them. Well, so does TJ Miller now, right? TJ Miller spoke up about Ryan and then all of a sudden took it back very publicly, blamed himself as having a misunderstanding with Ryan. And now he said he'd be willing to be in the next Deadpool movie. We also look at Morena from Deadpool. You see some interviews with her, and it's very obvious that her words and what she actually thinks do not match. I've also played a few clips from her. So what we have to also realize with Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively is people are afraid to actually speak out. And when or if they speak out, there is backlash. Look at TJ Miller. He took it back. People are afraid. So it's just something to keep in mind. And I feel that this is a power move with Ari Emanuel of saying, I've got their back. You're not going, if you go against them, you're going against us. And the one thing I will say about this is I believe, one, Ari Emanuel in this audio was lost. Thankfully, this person with some kind of recording device in their purse or pocket got it. But I believe it was lost because he implicated himself legally, because Justin Baldoni had made claims that he was fired because of Blake and Ryan. And Blake and Ryan's team were like, no, that's not what happened. And so this just confirms what Justin Baldoni's team has said all along, right? And it confirms that Blake and Ryan have been twisting the media all along. They've been using media manipulation. They've been playing on words, cutting things out. We see that in their different filings all along. So it does implicate him legally as well. So I don't doubt that they wanted this to disappear, but I just find it interesting at the start of this audio. He says, yeah, I expected you to ask about this. So this was an answer you thought of and still ran with it? I honestly think these people think they're untouchable. But another thing I want you to keep in mind is with social media now, media manipulation doesn't fly like it used to. It doesn't stick like it used to. Although it's very interesting to see people, even with proof in front of their face, ignore that proof. And I see that all the time on my social media accounts. However, you, the consumer, you, the person that are buying tickets to a movie or purchasing seats for a UFC fight or purchasing action figures to support a certain Marvel movie or something, you matter. And I also believe that players like this are going to learn very quickly. And there's a lot about Ari Emanuel I'm still digging into. There are rumors, it is alleged, it is rumors that he is the one that turned, not Terry Crews, Wesley Snipes into the IRS. This is pure speculation. Pure speculation. I'm curious. I'm just curious with Harvey Weinstein where that first domino got tipped. And I'm just going to leave it at that.
In Hollywood, they have been incredibly successful. People work with them. They've never had any bad mojo out there and treated people badly.
Ryan and Blake have never treated people badly, my friends. Don't believe your eyes. Don't believe your ears. Don't believe TJ Miller. Don't believe, Scarlett Johansson, although she's never named him specifically. Don't believe Alanis Morissette, who needed extensive therapy after being with him and alluded to the fact that, he was cheating on her with Scarlett and then he was cheating on Scarlett with Blake. Don't believe any of these people that have come out and said there's issues with Ryan. Those with Blake as well. It's not everyone else, or it's not her, it's everyone else. Sure, yeah, of course. Blake did poison the cast against a coworker on Gossip Girl, but that's not her fault, it's their fault. And was it Penn Badgley, I believe? It's his fault. It's just wild.
They kind of are charitable because we help them with their foundation. They've given tons of money away. If what is alleged...
I'm going to say something about that as well. Charitable, yes, they are. It appears to have been, or at least Ryan, he has helped sick kids for a very long time. Something to keep in mind about that, however, from 2024, is that sick kids typically, he was promoting them early December. In 2024, I started getting hit with ads for sick kids, which I've never got hit with ads from sick kids for their fundraisers. I started getting hit with ads the same day that Blake Lively's CRD complaint hit the New York Times in that "We Can Bury Anyone" article. Coincidence? And another thing that's very interesting is for the first time ever, Blake was alluded to and mentioned in the sick kids ads. So not only were the Sick Kids ads, which I have issues with, first of all, because running paid ads, I'm in branding and marketing, running paid ads is a lot of money. So my first question with that is, how much money are the kids actually seeing if you're paying Meta platforms to run these targeted ads? But that's neither here nor there. They typically, and he started promoting it previously earlier in December. I've never seen Sick Kid ads, not to say it's never happened, but I have not seen in recent years Sick Kids ads or promotion of Ryan's donations to Sick Kids happening so late in the year. It's happening, and I'm getting hit with the ads, and I have videos of this back then talking about how I was getting hit with those ads. On the same day her CRD complaint hits the New York Times article, and we get that We Can Bury Anyone inside a Hollywood smear campaign. So they've already started to manipulate the media. And those Sick Kids ads, again, how they focused was like Blake and I are donating. And so she's not on the screen, but he's talking to her off screen, using air quotes for those listening on the audio, talking to her off screen, and mentions Blake and I are donating this, which is interesting. Again, media manipulation, right? Like, look, we're so great. You're going to see the CRD complaint drop that we leaked. You're going to see the article drop. And this is the type of media manipulation that happens. It's like, well, yeah, believe us. Look at us. We're helping sick kids. People that help sick kids couldn't be the ones that are causing problems. Like, go after that guy.
In her lawsuit that happened on social media, just because she complained to the studio that things were unhealthy on the set, that he was director and this man was the producer. And they did to her what they're being alleged. They're really bad people. And Blake, I know Blake, I know Ryan, they're actually good people. Now, social media is a really good thing at times because it lets people, stars, connect with their fans. But these two guys used it in an evil way, if that's true.
Justin used social media in an evil way, my friends. Remember what I just said about social media manipulation right from the get-go with Blake and Ryan.
And we just have to be cognizant that you can root, and they should no longer be out there intimidating people, using social media now and trying to hurt them, and using their what they have been doing prior to it now to go against them. They should just stop, since they think they're innocent, and let the process play itself out. These are good people that have been in the business for decades.
So if Justin thinks he's innocent, he shouldn't defend himself. These people are wild. Just take it.
I've never had any bad press about them, and all the people they work with like them. And so, if it's true what they're saying in that allegation, these are two bad guys.
This concerns the making of the film where there's sex scenes and there's, I guess, what is called in Hollywood an intimacy coordinator.
They didn't have much. I mean, and then they went after him on social media. It's disgusting.
Can I just say this is very juvenile, but when I first read that and I knew I was going to be talking to you, I was trying to picture like Ari Emanuel on set as an intimacy coordinator. Is that a role?
So they're just now kind of making light of the situation because, well, that's the MO of these people.
No, I mean,
Could do well.
It is actually not a joke. I mean, that's actually an important role. She felt that she was not being protected. She complained, and then these people try to go after her. They should stop. And they're still trying to do it, and they should stop.
And what was your role? Did you fire him as a
fired him. I'm a ride or die. And they're good people. Yeah.
All right.
So that was exactly the complaint that Justin Baldoni had said, that he was fired because of the situation and because of what Ryan and Blake were feeding Ari Emanuel.
I know you have a friend to get on. Do you want to tell us where you're going, Money Chan?
I'm going to the 50th anniversary of SNL. I can't wait.
Yeah.
Y'all want to hear that again?
All right. I know you have a friend to get on. Do you want to tell us where you're going, Money Chan?
I'm going to the 50th anniversary of SNL. I can't wait.
Yeah.
That's a point.
So Ari Emanuel was at SNL 50. I find that also very interesting. I also wonder, were Blake and Ryan even invited originally? But you don't say no to Ari Emanuel. All right, there's a couple clips I want to play from an old podcast interview with him on Freakonomics. I'm going to keep it short. I can link the full episode. It's actually a fascinating business episode. There are interesting tidbits around scaling a business and just a business mindset. So it's a very in this next piece, I just want to look at a quick snapshot of this interview that Ari Emanuel did in 2023, I believe it was. And it is Ari Emanuel is Never Indifferent, episode 544 of Freakonomics Radio. And this quick little snippet, it's just interesting. He's talking about his family, how his family's happy for him, even though it might not have been the path that they chose for him. And he talks about how they contact him if they want to go see SNL. Now, I don't know officially Ari's connections to SNL. That's something that I'm now interested in. But it's just interesting how he says, yeah, if my family wants something, they usually call me to go to get into SNL.
It's happy for me. But
I mean, do you take him to a Super Bowl now and again? Stuff like does he enjoy it?
That's not him. But when he wants to go to SNL or tennis matches or whatever you want, he gets.
And what about Ram? What's Ram think of your success?
I don't know. I don't really.
When you're the little brother, even though you're 62 now, you're.
So again, that's just really interesting to me. And there's a couple more clips I want to quickly look at with you. In this next clip, it's just going a little bit into how efficient he is in terms of being a deal maker. And I think it's just really interesting to get a little bit of context in regards to how he does business.
Perhaps to the point of exploitive. Consider how he works both sides of the aisle when it comes to supply and demand.
So notice that he's such a good deal maker that it could be seen as being exploitive.
Look at the sports properties that he and Endeavor have bought, like the UFC and WWE. These are individual sports without labor unions where the athletes collectively get.
And I just want to be careful because of the music in the background, and I don't want to get copyright struck on this. So what he's just saying is he plays both sides of the aisle. Okay, so he's just describing essentially his business model, which is very interesting.
A relatively low share of overall revenues. A handful of stars make big money, but in the UFC, the athletes collectively receive just 15 or 20% of revenues, and that figure is probably even lower in WWE.
Okay, so keep in mind, he's saying that other than a few big stars, athletes in UFC and WWE aren't really making money. Who owns UFC and WWE? Ari Emanuel. All right, so he owns the company itself in sports where the athletes are making peanuts.
Compare that to a league like the NFL or NBA, where the athletes do have a union and collectively receive about half of league revenues. In those leagues, Endeavor represents the athletes in this year's NFL.
All right, so now he's saying when the athletes have unions to protect them to make a certain amount of money, Ari Emanuel represents the athletes. More money for him, right? If he owns the company, makes more sense for him to not give his money away to the athletes. If he's representing the athletes, he makes more money if they make more money. So he's going to fight for the athletes to make more money because it makes him more money, which goes back into my theory, which is speculation, but my theory that Ari Emanuel protects his pocketbook. Ari Emanuel, I don't see him as necessarily a ride or die with Blake and Ryan because they're besties or he actually sees them as friends. He might. I believe at this level with people, everything is transactional. And friendships are transactional. Business relationships are transactional.
Draft, for instance, they represented 3 first-round picks. In the upcoming NBA draft, they represent 4 players who are projected to be lottery picks. In other words, if a given sports ecosystem has high labor costs, Endeavor is likely to represent labor. If a different ecosystem has low labor costs, Endeavor is likely to opt for ownership.
Okay, so that is, you could argue very smart business. And I think it just also goes to show something I've said all the time. I really don't believe there's ethical business people at this level. I don't know. I might be wrong. They might be out there. I just find it hard to believe that you can play both sides of the aisle like that and know that you are in the UFC and WWE not properly paying your athletes and that you could give them more, but you just choose not to. It's just interesting to me. All right, let's context into who Ari Emanuel is as a businessman, as a person, and business dealings that he has done versus has not done and why. So if you want to check that out, check out the notes and you can listen, you can stream it. All right, I want to hear from you. What do you think about all of this? What are your opinions on this? And does learning a little bit more about some of the business dealings he's had behind the scenes, such as potentially a connection to SNL, which we probably all could already guess, and playing both sides of the business coin, does that change your opinion of Ari? Does that just make it make more sense on why he's backing Blake and Ryan? I want to hear from you guys. Leave me a comment and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye, guys.